I attended the St. John's Board of Trustees meeting on Thursday. I presented the Senate goals of the 17-18 academic year. And I also made sure, along with Trustee Rep. Eichten, to voice the student input we have been getting with regards to student culture on campus and also in St. Joe. The Student Housing Forum will be held on either October 31st or November 1st. The dates still to be determined. This is a forum that's really a chance for students to voice their input to the consultants and the housing committee, and the input that's gathered at these forums will be used to determine kind of the future plans in the future with the new housing going down in Clinton. Myself and a few other senators had a meeting with Chief Klein and Mike Connolly this week. We will be discussing the comments and complaints we have been getting and just kind of gathering more information with regards to relations in St. Joe. In terms of tonight's meeting, I just kind of want to say one thing. I've been on the Senate for 4 years and I've never seen anything like this. It's pretty special. It's obviously evident that the Senate and the students here are here to really hear your concerns, so thank you for showing up. This is truly what a student government is intended to be. We should be here as an avenue for all of you to voice your concerns and comments you may have, and then for the Senate to really try to represent these concerns to administration, faculty, board of trustees, and other respected stakeholders. So thank you all for showing up. While you're here, I encourage all of you to be really as respectful as possible. We're going to do our best to try to gather as much feedback as we can from you guys, and then really try to analyze this feedback to develop kind of a plan of action or a future plan to help try to solve the issue that's going on campus. And St. John's and St. Ben's is really an institution like no other, and there's no doubt in my mind that if we come together and work together and respectfully listen to one another, that we can truly come out of this bettering our community and hopefully solving the issue at hand. To keep the open forum moving, I asked of you if you agree with something, please just raise your hand. That way it'll be pretty transparent as to what people are in agreement with and disagree with. So thank you for being here. If you have any other additional comments, concerns, questions, complaints, anything, please feel free to reach out to the St. John's Senate email. We're currently composing a document with student complaints and kind of trying to formulate what's going on campus in the best way possible. So thank you all for being here, and I return my time.
Any questions to President Cummings? Seeing none, return the chair.
All right, moving on to letter B, Vice President report. Vice President Vaughn.
Thank you, President Cummings. All right, I'm going to send out my report via Slack in the general channel, Senator, so you can see just some stuff on capital improvements and what's going on this week. Awesome turnout tonight. Thank you so much for being out here. It's obviously something we're very passionate about. We have chairs down here for people looking to speak. We didn't mean that to be a deterrent. If you have something that isn't being said that should be, please come down and voice that. There's a lot of observers here, which is awesome, but don't be afraid to take an active role if there's something that's not being said that you want to. And then the one other thing I would say is just let's look for compromise tonight. You know, the St. Joe community is our community, but it's also in our community itself. We really need to work together to find how we can make it enjoyable for everyone and a great place to be on the weekends and during the week. Return my time.
Are there any questions for Vice President Vaughn? Seeing none, we will move on to letter C, committee report, Trustee Rep. Eichten.
Thank you, President Cummings. As far as committee report goes, this past week I met with the trustees, myself, President Cummings, and then Chairman Ferguson met on our respective subcommittees. We had a joint committee with student development, buildings and grounds, and finance to talk about the upcoming housing, new buildings being built. That was a very fruitful discussion. The trustees were very grateful for the student input that myself and President Cummings were able to provide at that meeting. Moving on, at the student development meeting. Myself, President Cummings, presented our Senate goals, including outdoor consumption and housing, as well as the social culture in St. Joe. And that discussion was very fruitful, and it is setting us on the right path for being able to solve some of these important issues. The general trustee meeting as well with the entire board, we talked about housing again during that, and the trustees were very much in favor of moving forward with the plan of action in the coming months. With that, I return back.
Thank you, Trustee Rep. Eichten. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will move on to the budget update. Treasurer Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. President. I'll keep this short today, just in light of all the other things we have on the docket for this evening. We've spent $12,113 to date, and that leaves us with a remaining budget of $36,612. That's just under a quarter of our discretionary budget, and I believe we're less than a quarter of the way through the school year. So just keep that in mind. We are still a little bit ahead of schedule. And I know I've said this at previous meetings, but I'd just like to reiterate that. As far as capital improvements go, I think it's great that we have something on the table today with capital improvements. Senators, continue to think about what you think can be improved on our campus, and if you guys have any ideas pertaining to capital improvements, I'd encourage you to bring that to a member of the exec council or myself, and we can get moving on it sooner rather than later. So, thanks for returning my time.
Thank you, Treasurer Johnson. Are there any questions? Chairman Turner.
Could you get those two numbers again, spent to date and remaining?
Yeah, so to date, we've spent $12,113.98, and that leaves us with a remaining budget of $36,612.54, and that's 24.86% of the budget so far.
Thank you for your time.
Any other questions for Treasurer Johnson? Seeing none, we will move on to letter E, CSB Senate update.
Some lovely freshman events being discussed in first-year elections. St. Thomas, St. John's campus ministry requested funding for $2,200 for fire retreat was allocated that amount. St. Robertson requested $5,244 for permanent products in campus bathrooms was allocated that amount. Need motion to allocate $210,020 for the one side, and that's it. I return it.
Great. Are there any questions? Vice President Foss.
No question, but thanks for coming in. Thank you for bringing candy for our senators.
Let's get it.
Too much.
Moving on to letter F, question time. Are there any senators wishing to address the St. John Senate? Senator McGee.
We're still missing that basketball, boys. I need that back.
Here.
I return my time.
Are there any other senators wishing to address the St. John's Senate? Seeing none, we'll move on to Roman numeral 5, special orders, letter A. Father Doug.
First of all, I just want to thank everyone for the opportunity to be here tonight. And my purpose in being here is to explain some of the things that have happened, particularly the background to the email that I sent out last week that seemed to create so much stir, and then to listen to concerns that are coming forward. When I'm listening, I expect to be back there taking notes on the pad so that you can see that I'm writing down what is being said. And if there are questions that are coming forward, I'll certainly be glad to ask them. At the end of the time when comments have been made, I'd like to give kind of a general response to what I've heard. So that's the general plan that I have here for this evening. So the background, last Thursday morning, I sent out an email. Mary Geller sent out a parallel email to CSB students. What had transpired beforehand was that last Monday, the presidents Mary Henson and Michael Hennessy received an email from the mayor, Mayor Schultz of St. Joe, who was essentially pleading for assistance that because of student problems, misbehavior in St. Joe, particularly on weekend evenings. He was asking for assistance. It seemed like there was kind of a subtle question of, can we help provide more resources to help them deal with all the problems there? In response to their request to the presidents, I asked that we have a meeting, me being the Mary Geller and myself, as well as the two deans of students, that we would meet with Mayor Schultz and Chief of Police Klein to hear their concerns and kind of talk through what was going on. Essentially what they were saying is that the problems in St. Joe have been increasing on weekend nights. The numbers of people involved have been increasing. The amount of drunkenness involved has been increasing. The problems that were coming forward were citizens, the main thing that pushed forward were citizens of St. Joe were coming into the city council and calling in complaints that students are creating all kinds of problems in St. Joe. Vandalism, messed up property, little kids being scared, lots of loud noise, things like this. Garbage left after the next morning to clean up. So certainly we're accustomed to a lot of things like that coming up. We have dealt with them in St. Joe last year on this issue. Things were happening. But the thing that really pushed things further this year is Chief Klein was talking about that students, when being confronted with things, were becoming very disrespectful, very rude, and threatening, essentially, was the sense that we were getting from this. So with that, our intent in sending out the email was simply to lay down the expectations, the sense for students that we expect students to follow the law and adhere to the program there. The laws and ordinances have been created to kind of in response to citizens' concerns, and we expect that Johnny's and Benny's, being good citizens, good neighbors, are going to respond to what's there. To the subtle request for funds, we said we are not going to provide funds. We expect students who are given citations to be fined and pay for the resources that are needed. We don't want to use money that students are paid for their student fee to go to dealing with those kinds of problems in St. Joe. So we're not giving any money, we're not getting anything from them, but we're seeking to have good relations. So that was the general background. That's what went forward. The email came out as it was, and the goal is to improve relations with the St. Joe community. So with that, I'm prepared to listen and take notes back on the screen.
Thank you, Father Doug. All right, so we're going to move on to open forum. We'll start down the line, but again, a lot of listeners, this is great, but we really encourage you guys to come down here, speak what's on your mind, give input with what was just said and how you feel. But yeah, with that, we'll start right up.
Hello everyone here tonight. My name is Seth Holland. I'm a sophomore here at SJU. I'd like to open this by saying it's an honor to speak in front of the Senate and you, Father Doug, and all of you Johnnies and Bennies who did come out here tonight. Thank you very much. I won't be confronting the community aspect. My fellow Johnny, Matthew Immelman, will cover that, so hold any questions about what our policies or what we've discussed about that until now. My first and foremost concern that many Johnnies that I've discussed this with have had is the possibility of an increase in sexual assault cases due to the fact that when an individual is in town, And they are surrounded by people who are strangers, who are not afraid to say something to them about assaulting a woman, a Benny or otherwise, sexually. They are less inclined to do so or will face public chastisement from their peers in a way that is more likely to occur in a situation where you can have 8 people in a room maximum who are all likely friends with or know the possible assaulter or victim, and maybe less likely to say something. Another point that I'd like to bring up is that in a dorm room, there is a bed nearby, and anyone might be less inclined to leave than town, where you have to walk and ride a bus and so on and so forth. So that is one of our chief concerns. Another concern is a possible increased strain on life safety, RAs, FRs, EMTs, and firemen. If the cases are moved from St. Joe to this campus, life safety will face an increased strain. They will have to write more people up. They will have to repeatedly check halls, because if it's not in St. Joseph, it will move somewhere. Another point that I'd like to bring up is that, financially speaking, a lot of Johnnies are concerned that there will be a lower income for our university as enrollment will drop, as prospective students may be less inclined to go here when they hear there's a decreased social aspect and community. Another concern is, I'd like to open this up to those of you observing. How many of you have considered transferring out of campus since hearing this ruling? Considered. That's a lot of people. So I'd like to bring that point up, because that is also a lot of revenue that could be lost from this campus, and I don't want to see this university miss out on revenue. Now, to move on to the community aspect in a more focused manner, I pass off to Matthew Immelman.
Well, thank you, Father Doug, for bringing up the issues concerning community between St. John's and St. Ben's students in relations with the residents of St. Joe. Because since St. John's and St. Ben's has been here, that has been a piece of community that we have had a strong relationship with. But the community aspect that I am most concerned with is between each other. Because it seems that without being encouraged to go to St. Joe, rather be discouraged to go to St. Joe, particularly on the weekends. It seems like there are fewer opportunities to have gatherings with multiple students, seeing as you can have, I believe, 25 students maximum seating, 8 students per dorm room. So for me, it feels like we can build a better sense of community while being in a place like St. Joe alongside our peers. Right, and furthermore, I think that it doesn't make us feel very welcome to be policed all the time, whether that be by campus security, life safety, local law enforcement. It feels like we are in college to make our own decisions, and having somebody look over our shoulder the whole time doesn't give us that sense of welcoming and safety that a college campus should make us feel. And I think that's something scary, because that's something that I need in a college to be happy, and I'm sure a lot of my peers feel the same way. And for that reason, that's why some of us are looking to transfer. And I think that's rectifiable here at St. John's.
Father Doug, are you taking any questions, or are there any questions that you get to ask that you can answer now or more towards the end?
I think it's better to get all things out there.
Okay. Well then, the one quick thing that I want to say, well, first of all, thanks for coming. Thanks to the senators, and Father Doug, thanks for coming to clarify some things that we are concerned with. So the question that I have is regarding one of the policies on campus at both schools. And that is that if you get in trouble once off campus, you're going to get in trouble again on campus, no matter what. So, to give a quick story, because I noticed this immediately when coming here. I got a drinking ticket when I was 18 at a different school. I didn't transfer because of it, but I did transfer, and I came over here. And I noticed that one of my buddies had gotten a drinking ticket in the fall, and it was hindering his possibility to play football up here. So what I'm wondering is, where's the connection between the school and the police, where if you get in trouble through the police, they are obligated to tell the school? I mean, they are paying their fine for drinking or having an open container, and then they get a mark on their record at the school. I think instead of giving them a mark on their record, it would be better if they were talked to about it, but they're already paying $200 out of pocket. I think getting a drinking ticket is enough to kind of cause people to take a step back and think about drinking again. Another thing that I want to say is that everybody at St. John's and St. Ben's is worried about the community of St. Joseph, but we are never asked to go to the city council meetings. The interactions that we have with the city council members and the mayor is basically through the school. So if we want to make changes in a city level, in a municipal level, I'm wondering, like, when are we going to hear from the city where we can go and voice our concerns? That might just be us going to meetings, or, I don't know, having some kind of communications with the police, whoever it is. But I think it's important that we do keep this relationship with St. Joseph, but we need to feel like they care about keeping us, because just to say that we are crazy students is a little unfair when a lot of the neighbors that I've met are okay with parties on the weekends. Not all the neighbors, but there are neighbors that are okay with it. So yeah, I guess I'm just wondering how we can come to an understanding that the city thinks that we matter. Because just calling us a bunch of bandits running around drinking is a little unfair when not everybody's doing that every weekend. So that's all I gotta say.
Hello everyone, my name is Friedrich Oderman. I'm a sophomore. I think something that's really important to understand about coming to college is you're getting out on your own and you're really understanding who you are, and experimenting is part of that. Drinking a little alcohol is part of experimenting for most college students. And I think that ties in a little bit to the policy that's being enacted. This is a really big policy. It's really broad, that everyone that's caught drinking underage is getting the exact same punishment. They get a minor. And essentially what you have in town is a lot of different kinds of people that are drinking. You have people that will drink uncontrollably. There are people in town that will drink uncontrollably. They'll drink a lot of alcohol, and they could be harm to themselves and to others. But then you also have people that this is their first time drinking, and they're out and they're stopped at Buzz with their friends. They're figuring out who they are, and they get the exact same punishment as someone who's a lot more dangerous and in a lot worse state. So I think, one, recognizing that college, drinking is part of college, just because experimenting is part of college, because you're on your own, you're figuring out who you are, and that everyone that's getting caught is getting the exact same sentence. They're getting a minor. So essentially what you have is a lot of people graduating CSBSJU with a minor, which makes it a lot more difficult to get a job outside of school when you have something like that on your record. And it's been I recognize that the alumni connection that we have outside of CSBSJU is really important. It's really strong. And when you have students that graduate with minors, it makes it increasingly difficult to get a job, so your alumni connection gets a lot weaker. Because alumni promoting other students to jobs is a lot more difficult when they don't have high enough jobs to promote because of the minor that they got while they were here at school. And also I think that students that are graduating that feel like they were quote unquote screwed over by the school for helping the police bust houses and give minors to people that might be figuring out who they are. Students that graduate feeling that way will be a lot less likely to help current students and continue that alumni connection. That's all I have. Thank you.
Hello, I am Samuel Truer. I'm a sophomore, and I'm an RA on Path 3. As an RA, I do not condone underage drinking, as it is against the law and is against school policy. But this does not change our job. Our job is to enforce the rules on the floor, but more importantly, ensure that everyone in our residence halls and around campus is safe. And as an RA, I'm concerned by the rise of minors and increase in punishments in town, because that encourages people to drink in their dorm rooms or in the R or like anywhere but town, because it's safer. Now, especially dorm rooms are very dangerous because that's where all the alcohol is. When you go to town, you know, maybe someone takes a flask or a water bottle, but they're not in their room playing a drinking game or, you know, just sitting there, which is not good when it comes to binge drinking or an increase of sexual assault on campus. Both my brothers graduated from here, and at my brother's wedding about a month ago, Piano Man was the closing song, and we all dropped our pants. So, St. John's and St. Ben's have always had a great community. Sometimes that community correlates with drinking. It happens. We have a pub on campus, it's a wet campus. You got the monks, we love it. But that is responsible drinking. Now, irresponsible drinking does not change. That's always going to be present. Now, you can have that in town, or you can have that in the dorm rooms where there is not the safety net of the police to apprehend or prevent things from happening or going further south than they will. Thank you very much.
Hi there, I'm Colin Trout, I'm the RA for Flying 4, and you know, I really don't have much to say. These guys really summed them up. These are our main driving issues and concerns. Listen, we are not a bunch of pissed off underage drinkers. We're here because we're concerned about the community of St. John's, and we're concerned about the safety of the people that go here, and St. Ben's, by the way. So I guess the only thing I want to ask is, why haven't these issues been put into consideration more than they seem to be? This is a big deal. Sexual assault is not good. We can't encourage it by having these things happen in the dorms. This is ridiculous. Why haven't they been put into consideration more than they seem to be? And that's my only question. Thank you.
today. I'm thankful for being here. I'm going to try to keep this quick, but I just want to say that there's plenty of perspectives about drinking on campus, and I don't think that this issue just concerns the stereotypical, you know, frat star partying, whatever it is. As a freshman, I went into town in, I think it was the second week of school. I was sober, I was just with some buddies and looking to explore St. Joseph's. What I found is what looked kind of like a police state, in that a police car drove by about every 30 seconds. And I mean, it just seemed preposterous because people were milling about the streets and almost like playing a game of cops and robbers with the police force. I think there's a lot of, there's a rift between the students and the police right now, and there's been no efforts to ease animosity between the students and the police. The students on St. Ben's and St. John's campus are a massive staple in the St. Joe's economy, and it is in everyone's best interest, including the small business owners in town, to get along with us. So I think it's inevitable that we need to compromise, and that just trying to keep the town on lockdown and pretending like some college kids aren't going to go out and drink in town, that's not going to be the solution. So I just want to say that this concerns me as just a regular freshman new to this school. I don't want to be spending my next 4 years here under a magnifying glass. I intend to be quite responsible, and I believe that I am, but this matters to more than just partiers, I guess.
Hello everyone, my name is Cecilia Lovinger, and I thought I would come up here because I didn't see any St. Ben's perspective. So with that being said, I thought I would just voice not only like my concern, but some of the opinions that a lot of my girlfriends have discussed as well. And two of the main points that we talked about are growing up, maybe you are causing a problem, like yes, let's be honest here, it's illegal, maybe you do deserve the minor, but if you've gone to a party and you've had a couple of beers with your friends and you're not causing any problem, you shouldn't just automatically be assumed to be doing something wrong. Like, I think that's pretty fair. And the second point that we discussed is the overall safety concern about constantly being watched, because like some of the guys behind me said, drinking in college is a way to explore yourself. Not everybody does it, and that's fine, but it does happen, and I can pretty much guarantee that drinking is still going to happen. It's kind of become a part of college, and it's more dangerous to be constantly policed, like you're being watched, because from my experience, a lot of people will to achieve that, like being drunk, will like rip vodka or like hard alcohol. But when you're like not, if you're more trusted, you can like often drink like beer, I don't know, wine, or kind of just like stop at bars, like they're saying. But if you're like out and you're like trying to be discreet, you're often going to go over your limit. That's just what we've been talking about.
Come to you not as a senator, but as a student. One of the things that we know is a goal of the Vice President of Student Development is that we're promoting responsible drinking. Now, responsible drinking needs to be defined. It's not binge drinking. It's not behind closed doors. It's being active in your community and in moderation. Benedictine values. That's what we're trying to promote here. is that community aspect in moderation. In order to do that, we need to be able to have gatherings that promote community and moderation. And when you're constantly shutting down gatherings, it's impossible to do that. You're forcing people into that binge drinking culture that's been described already, that people don't want to be a part of. But they're being forced into that because they feel like they have no other options. St. John's Community is one of the most important pieces of this school. It's on every flyer we hand out. It's in every video. It is St. John's. We don't want to be a backpack school. But policies like this is going to make us become a backpack school. We don't want to be St. Thomas. We want to keep people here. So when you're constantly shutting it down, it makes it happen. I'd just like to point out a few other things. One, being a student of age who is able to consume alcohol. Going to a place like the bar, for instance, and getting ID'd 4 times in the bar by police is unacceptable. I already had to ID myself to get into the bar, and then when the police come in, ID me 4 times, and then this is going to be a personal story here, but then when you leave the bar and get ID'd again, and when the girls you're with are called to as Missy, is unacceptable and disrespectful to the students of St. John's St. Ben's. Any other demographic being targeted like this, there'd be a lawsuit already, and because we're college students, we're being targeted. That's unacceptable.
Are there any other students wishing to participate in open forum?
I'm Chloe, I'm a freshman here, and I just want to start out with talking about the first time I heard about St. Ben St. John's was obviously just like constantly at my high school, only good things, and it just made me want to visit here. And the first time I came here, I came to visit some friends, and I remember having a great time, like seeing how hard they work in school, and then being able to, you know, have that work hard, play hard mentality is something that I really admire about this institution. And another thing is that when I go into town, I feel so safe because I will be walking with a couple of my guy friends and other Johnnies, and they're like, "Oh, are you being taken care of? Like, is he treating you well?" I feel very safe there. And then I have like considered transferring because I've gotten a drinking ticket and I'm a freshman. Like, I don't want to spend time at a school walking on eggshells for the next 4 years. That's not a way I want to spend my time here. And then also, it's not, like, are we really going to be oblivious to the fact that drinking is part of, like, college culture? Because it's everywhere, it's not just here, it's all over. And something else I wanted to bring up was how the connection between police and school kind of upsets me a lot. Because I don't really get how we can be treated as adults in so many aspects, but then also we're expected to, I don't know, follow all these rules and be police watched like we're still children. But another thing too about the sexual assault piece is that you have to consider the repercussions of what's going to happen, like all the people have obviously brought up. So, thank you.
No other students wish to address. I just want to say, I'm here to first say thank you to everyone. This has been extremely helpful to construct a voice for the student body, especially because I've talked to many alumni, many students in high school who are looking to come here, and I do not want to be a part of the students that have ruined this institution for us. So very helpful to see everyone involved as far as keeping this community aspect around. With that, I just want to thank you again. If anyone else wishes to speak, please do.
I forgot one aspect of what I was going to say about our community here, and that's with our FRs and our RAs. And Father, you were an FR in the past, correct?
I still am.
Still are. All right, my bad. So I guess my question is, with a show of hands, how many people feel threatened and watched over too closely by your RAs or FR?
So everyone's already said it, but again, thank you for coming out. We really appreciate building this community voice as it pertains to this issue. So my name's Ben, I'm 21, and I live at the Strip, which one aspect that I really want to talk about is how, most people that live off campus are seniors, and people that live before me in that house, they were all seniors, and therefore they're no longer there. I don't feel that I should be, directly associated with whatever went on there last year, because quite frankly, I had nothing to do with it. So the fact that, last night I go to leave my house at, 10 p.m. and there's 2 cop cars just going by with their windows down and stopping, patrolling my residence, just trying to see if there's a party that needs to be broken up. I mean, I feel spreading, and it doesn't exactly make me want to, be the most hospitable person, as it comes to just inviting people inside to, take part in this community. And I think that's, a big aspect of why a lot of you came here. And, it's been said before, but at the end of the day, you did not come to St. John's and St. Ben's because you really like partying. Everyone that came here really did, at some level, buy into the underlying values of, the Benedictine values, and that community aspect. Here. And again, I think that we should be, held to the same standards that, the townies are. And, I don't feel that that's the case whatsoever. So, that's something I just want to make.
Thanks so much. That's a really good conversation. I love hearing from everyone. One point I'd just like to bring up is really should start searching for solutions. I've heard hints of what it should be. According to students, maybe it's more cooperation between students and the St. Joe community, or administration and the community, figuring out what we can do in town, what we are allowed to, and really try to set those limits so we know how we can safely go into town and enjoy our weekend. Another thing I'd like to push for, I'm already down in Vincent, so I'm down in the Clinton area. In Clinton, as well as Upper Campus, in Placentar, you can register at a party. A lot of people don't know that. I know a lot of people are first-year sophomores, that's okay. But especially when you get to junior, senior, know that that's a thing you can do. Because so far, down in Clinton this year, we've had 1 registered party, which is really sad. Basically, all it means, you're going to say, I'm going to have a party this weekend. I will have non-alcoholic beverages present as an option. I'll have food present as an option. And it basically gives you a lot of freedom to have that party, make noise, enjoy your night. It also gives students another place to go. So maybe you don't have to go all the way to St. Joe. Maybe you can come down to Clinton, go to a party, go to Placentar and go to a party. So just really push your upperclassmen friends, push yourselves to do that, and really enjoy the evening responsibly on campus. Thanks.
Hello, everyone here who did not have to go catch that bus. Basically, Father Doug, the one thing I would like to bring up would be the fact that you mentioned some crime statistics that you got from the St. Joe Police Department, And I understand it's not their job to publish that to the school, but Sunside School does have this great relationship with the St. Joe Police Department where we share information. I feel like it's critical for students to know the crime statistics in our community, just to get a sense of, are we having more alcohol incidents because they're looking for it, or just to be able to analyze that trend is one of the main things that I'm trying to get at, just for the sake of transparency within our community. In addition to that, Stephen, you brought up solutions, which is great. I think in terms of this institution, we are still, even with the party permit, you're still forcing people to consume alcohol indoors. We live in this gorgeous state, and one of the things we pride ourselves on would be this great outdoor atmosphere that we have at St. John's. Why not be able to consume an alcoholic beverage outside? I live in town right now, and to tell you the truth, one of the main reasons why I wanted to live in town is the fact that I could go outside and enjoy an alcoholic beverage in my yard. I don't believe you could really do that in a constructive way here at St. John's. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of all I got.
Are there any other students wishing to participate in the open forum?
Here comes this guy again, right? At one point that I forgot to make, concerning moving people to the dorms, this affects people who not only participate in drinking, but those who do not. Because those who do participate in drinking, more often than not, like to stay up past quiet hours or like to be loud past quiet hours. Now, for those of us who don't drink and those of us who don't participate in partying, that may be disruptive if it gets moved to campus because there's more people in dorms, more dorms that are loud, less people that can sleep. And that's just another point. I'd like to once again say thank you to everyone who come up here to speak, everyone on the Senate who came up here to speak too, and our RAs who came up here to speak. And the Senate is our way that we can use our voice. They are the mouth for our voice. So don't just stop here. If there's ever an issue that you want to be concerned on, be informed and tell the Senate so we can have things like this. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak. I just wanted to talk about that we have this open forum for this, and I just kind of think it's ridiculous. I think that there are a lot of issues that we don't address. We don't get a big turnout, and it's really embarrassing for me as a family to have so many people come out for something like this to get the okay to be ridiculous and drunk, and because it's not acceptable. Being drunk and out, and we all know, as much as we want to say just let us do what we want, we've all been in town, and the drinking is out of control. So besides that, it's really embarrassing to see so many people behind something like letting consume liquor and party and not for real issues that we don't get a turnout for. So I just want to say check our values, our Benedictine values, our morals, and think about that when real issues come up and not something such as just drinking. And this is how many people we have here instead of for something. The other things that are real issues and the other people such as diversity. And minorities have been feeling targeted. And we don't address that. We don't have open forum here. At our Senate retreat, I'm a senator, but I'm coming out of the bid. At our Senate retreat, I was told that something like discussing the bus incident was not a time to be discussed, or it wasn't a leadership time to be discussed in a Senate meeting. So I just find that's a little ridiculous, actually. And I just wanted to express that, and that if we are going to pay this much attention and respect to something like this, that we do the same for all the other really important issues as well.
You're here.
Hi, Father Doug. I have a message from an anonymous Johnny. He's out of state, and he says, I'm from out of state and come from a place that was inclusive with parties, and through parties one could meet more people and new connections. After spending a year here and having interactions with alums, they have always asked about campus life and talked about the memories they created, and in some ways that built a level of traditions for the students. It seems like it's been a declining tradition for fun and inclusive activities to constantly disappear. Can we not continue this trend? Thank you.
Okay, just one thing quick. I don't think that the reason behind this is to approve drinking heavily. Drinking a lot is not great, but the fact that there's so many people here listening and expressing their concerns with the issue just shows that the students are looking for kind of what David touched on, a little bit more transparency and a little bit more of a voice. So we understand there's three aspects to this. There's the administration, there's the city, and there's the students. And we're just wondering, and I think a lot of students are wondering when the students are going to get incorporated into the discussion, into the decision making, and into the policy reform or implementation. We just want to be able to act like adults and help make decisions. It's not that we want to just drink all the time. We just want, because if we can't talk about what's going on off campus right now, where people are getting in trouble all the time, like what issues will we be able to communicate to the administration with? That's all I have to say.
Hi everyone, thanks for letting me speak. But I think one of the biggest things about why I came here and a lot of other people came here was the community and like the ability to meet people. Just because everyone here is like pretty friendly, at least that I've met, and you get to know a lot of people. And I haven't really ever seen an atmosphere outside of town that's like that, because you never really get to meet that many new people. Whether it's like in your major going to events, you're only gonna run into like certain people all the time, and you never really meet anyone new. So I think, drinking or not, the policing of town, like, it restricts a lot of people from going in there because they're concerned. And when you're walking around, just having police officers come by every 30 seconds just makes you not want to be there. And I think some of the people that I've met and got to know really well, I met in town because it gives a good place for people to just go and meet others, and that's really all I have to say.
Hello. So I agree with the point that if we feel there's a policy here that we should come speak to the Senate and give our voice. But the increased police presence and the crackdown on this shows, I think, a lack of trust on the students' part of administration towards students. So if we lose trust on this, if I can't, you won't hear our voice on other things. I'm saying this is an extreme overreaction, and a loss of trust is inevitable.
Hey everybody, I'm Austin. I'm a sophomore. Just had my 20th birthday recently at the beginning of the year. When I was going through high school, actually when I was growing up, just in general, not just high school, my parents always told me, they said, when you get to college, people aren't going to be watching out for you all the time. And that's a very important part, or it's a very important time to actually grow up. So they said, I don't really know how to phrase this. I'm just saying, for me personally, I feel like when there's people always watching me, and there's people behind my back and watching, we gotta grow up sometime. And I think at the age of 20, or even 18, like a lot of our freshmen here, I think this is a great time to learn to be responsible. And I think when you go out with your friends into town, there's obviously those people that are being reckless and, obviously causing trouble. I just think that, it's kind of hard to say, when you see what happens, you can learn. It's a great learning experience going into town. You see people slamming vodka shots and then they're on the ground, they get picked up, go to detox maybe, I don't know. It happens, it really happens. All I want to say is, when you see that, you learn a lesson.
you really, really learn a lesson. So I saw a lot of stuff last year. You know, people on the ground, people the next morning, they missed their classes. I just think that at the age of 18, 20, hopefully by 22, they've certainly learned something. I just think we got to grow up sometime. So let's do it now. Let's learn our lessons right now.
I'd just like to reiterate one point that's been said. Definitely, Father Doug, you said that students have been disrespectful to police officers. And I've seen that happen in town. Students have been disrespectful to police officers before, and that can happen when you have alcohol in your system. But it's also happened the other way. I've seen police officers be disrespectful to students, and I think that's partially because they've been given an allowance by the school to do whatever they want, to give minors to any underage drinkers they can find, turn over every rock, look at every house. And I think that that's something that the school has allowed in enacting this new policy, trying to stop a lot of drinking in town. It's given the police officers a lot of allowance to do whatever they want to meet their goal and meet the school's goal.
Evening. Voicing some of the concerns that are coming from the class Facebook pages. Students are worried that if we don't allow them to drink in town or find safe and responsible places for them to be on campus, that they will drive in the same cloud, and that will increase the drinking and driving in our school.
Are there any other students? There we go.
Speaking of going to St. Cloud, I've heard many of my residents say that, you know, I'm gonna have to start going to U of M more, or I'm gonna have to start going, like, I heard a couple people say they're gonna even drive down to Madison. They're gonna drive, you know, what is it, a 6.5-hour drive to go to some place where they feel that they can safely drink, because they don't feel safe to do that here. And if you have people leaving every weekend, the community's lost there, is gone. You have people who just come here to school, they live here during the week, and they're not here on the weekend. They're just gone. Dorm rooms empty, nobody here. And that's something that we cannot have. Community is the most important thing at St. John's. And when you lose that, it's gone. It's gone. It's very hard to bring back because the trust is gone, and the people who encourage us to come back aren't there anymore. Thank you.
Kind of reiterating on stuff here. I'm a sophomore. My first year.
Can you hear me?
Okay, so I'm a sophomore. My first year, absolutely loved it. I love the community aspect, everything. And to be honest, I'm touring UMD in 2 weeks because I've just lost all of the community aspect here. To be honest, I was involved in a write-up this last weekend, and the officer specifically said how we were being extremely respectful, and he admired us for how respectful and cooperative we were being. And I felt just straight disrespect and condescending back from him. He was making us feel belittled, and honestly, it was a horrible situation. I've been written up before, and I felt respected, but after everything that's happened, he just showed no respect whatsoever, and I feel like that is not okay, that we can't voice our opinion and then have no respect back towards us. Thank you.
My name Piper, but everyone, people know me as Piper, that's what I go by. I'm a 9th semester senior, and I just want to say, being part of this student body and Senate, I think it's important not to just be a brick wall of ideas. You have to be open-minded, it's important. You don't just come here and just say, this is what it is, and even though you're making good points, I'm not going to, take it in. So I think it's important that we all open our minds. 2, I think we should just think about our actual realities and not just, it's good that we have statistics, but how do you actually experience this community? And that's what's real. So there's a lot of horror stories, and there's a lot of, things that's going on around you, maybe, but what's your actual reality? How do you want, what do you want to leave behind when you leave? That's another thing you should think about. And lastly, I think people say you're going to destroy the community. There's no real one community. Okay, this community is made up of many communities in one. That's a fact. And also, there's different types of community. What type of community do you want this to actually be? Do you want this to be this or that? It's not going to be nothing. It's always going to be a community. How do you want to live in it? How do you want it to function? Thank you.
Good night again, everyone. Thank you for coming. Sorry for that. Good night, everyone. Again, thank you for coming. My name is David Johnson, and I'm the Cultural Affairs Rep for the St. John Senate. But other than that, I'm a junior here at St. John's University. And a lot has been said about the drinking and worrying about socializing in St. Joe. But one thing that I really wish to highlight is the respect between St. Joe police and the students here at St. John's and St. Ben's. A lot has been said about the police, not about the students, not respecting the officers, but I want to touch on the way that the officers treat and respect the students, because I feel like there should be a sign of mutual respect. I was always taught grace to do unto others, you have them do unto you. So I believe that the students should be treated with respect. And with that, I want to touch on an incident between CSB senior and police officers. This student is not only a minority on the campus, but she is also an international student. I understand that she was walking from McDonald Apartments, about to go across the crosswalk over to College Ave where she lives, and when she was about to walk across the crosswalk, a police car sped up on her and almost knocked her. This student was traumatized, and she ran over to her apartment, and she ended up crying to her apartment crying to the members in her apartment. I don't know about you, but this really had my heart torn to bits, just because the only thing that she felt as if she could do is to voice her opinion and talk about the situation to the director of Human Rights and Intercultural and International Student Services Department. And he tried to reach out to the police chief, and he got no response on that situation. And I have a problem with the officers not being able to respond to that, but yet they have time to send out an email about what students are doing, negatively impacting the St. Joe community. Because this is serious. Like I said, not only is I a minority, but as an international student, and I just want to say and make clear that the police officers not only need to expect respect from us, but they need to respect us as well. Thank you. Here.
Piggybacking off of what he just said, I just want to provide another incident where something similar happened in St. Joe. This was the second party my roommate and I decided to go to, and we were just coming from West Isles, and so a resident of St. Joe actually pulled up on us in a pickup truck, and it was a group of friends. I'd say it was about 6 of us, and he nearly ran us over. So we all backed up. My roommate decided to go up to his truck, and he's like, "Hey, get out! Like, get out! What did you do that for?" And instead of getting out or stopping or doing anything, he tried to reverse and run him over. So we had to hurry him back out of the way again. And so we hopped on the truck. He's like, "Bro, I'm not getting off your truck until you come out and, you know, explain what's wrong with yourself." And so instead of doing any of that, he just took off with my friend, drove him down like a country mile down one of the roads, and shook him off his truck. Now his shoulder is dislocated permanently, and we didn't get any answers. We had to take him to the hospital. He came back that night, and we went to the man's house. And instead of getting any answers, we got pulled up by the entire police force. Police chief himself, officers on bikes, officers in cars, officers in SUVs. It was ridiculous for 3 students. All of us were black, by the way. But it was ridiculous. There's a lack of respect. There's a lack of empathy. They didn't care about what he had. They didn't care about what happened. His arm was in a sling. They didn't care. They just saw us trying to retaliate on him. That wasn't the case. We just wanted answers. And all we asked is respect.
I'll just say, one, this is awesome that this many students are giving this much input and have this much passion about something, and that you feel comfortable coming to the Senate. This is what we're here for. But just like something else, or someone else said, feel free to be this passionate about other issues on campus. There's a lot of things that might be going on campus that you feel inclined to talk about, and we're here to listen. In terms of solutions, we got to talk amongst ourselves and work with other individuals, other organizations, and members of administration and faculty to really try to solve this issue. But just hearing one of the underlying reasons for this kind of increase in enforcement is deriving from bad student behavior in St. Joe. So while we work towards finding a solution to this, in the meantime, keep each other accountable. Stop students from tarnishing the reputation that this incredible institution has in St. Joe. Keep each other accountable with members of St. Joe citizens, with police. If we can all keep each other accountable, act more respectful, I think in turn we could start seeing students get received in a respectful manner in turn. So that's kind of my thoughts as we work towards a solution to this. I really think really keeping each other accountable to promote responsible drinking behavior in St. Joe. So that's my thoughts. If there are other student input, we would love to hear it. I know Trustee Rep. Eichten has a few thoughts about this as well, so I'll hand it over to Mike to him.
I just really appreciate that everyone came out here. And if you're sitting up there and you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of this large of a group, please email us your thoughts. We want to hear it, no matter what it is, even if you disagree or you agree with whatever point. We want that input, and we want to be able to verbalize that when we go about our meetings. And just, I really appreciate that you guys are passionate, and I'd like to echo what President Cummings said. Be this passionate about everything that happens on this campus, not just about the social aspect. Be active in your own community.
All right, so with that, if there are no other student input or comments on this matter, we will move forward with our agenda. All right, Taylor. Warren.
Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Sarah Paulson, I'm a junior. I'm the director of the Men's Development Institute here at St. John's. And what I see around here is an awesome community. I don't think I've ever seen anyone in the last 3 years, for how long I've been in MDI, come to a total of MDI event. So that's pretty awesome to see you all here. The word community tonight has been thrown around a lot. That's a word we often get in trouble for. What does this community really mean to you? How many of you talk to someone on the link when you're sober, in the middle of the week, that you don't know? Saw some hands drop. Community means more than just the weekend, right? And I'm not going to sit here and say I don't go out on the weekends, and I'm not 21 either. Okay, I've been in town, I've done all that. But when we say, and we stand here and we say we're worried about sexual assault, about our community, I just want to challenge you to say what that community really means. Are we really here for the sexual assault? Because we have Sexual Assault Awareness Week, and we get not the same turnout. Last year, MDI ran a Stop Child Abuse campaign. We painted less nails than the people in this room. All I'm asking you to think about is why you're here. Are you really here for the community? Because you love the person standing next to you? Or are you here for something else? Because we toss around that word a lot. And it's not an easy word to live up to. But it's a word that we all can live up to. So I challenge you to think about why you're here tonight. Think about how you're making a way for community in your daily lives. When you're sober, when you're not sober. Because it does matter, and it does matter in this community. Because we all toured this campus sober. We all decided to come here sober, I hope. So there's plenty of ways that we can make this place a community sober. And this issue we'll work on as well. But in the meantime, when you're riding a link, when you're sober in your classes, how are you working to make this place a community? Because we say that a lot, and it's time for us to start showing it.
First of all, my thanks also to everyone who came out, who spoke up, and those who listened. A lot of good things were said tonight. A number of things were said with some, I think, pretty severe misconceptions, misunderstandings of things, but we're a place of learning, and we're going to learn how to deal with some things. One thing I want to emphasize, one misconception I want to challenge, I guess, is that the step up of enforcement in St. Joe was not requested, or it was not requested by St. Ben's or St. John's. We had no authority over that. We do not pay taxes to the city of St. Joe. That it's the taxpayers who made the complaints and are asking for this. That's the responding group. So they're asking us to support them. We're not giving them any financial support. So that's one thing. The other thing is, again, as we're talking about sexual assault, which is a critical issue, most of our sexual assaults this past year took place off campus. Off campus. And for most there was drinking involved off campus. That's an important consideration. Other things, I guess I'd like to encourage you, you're talking about policies and so on. Fundamental to all this, the policies that are being created are for enforcement of laws. Now, the legal drinking age, as you all know, is 21. There have been students that have been going to college for years and years who've complained about that. And then when they become adults, it's no longer an issue. And they has to have the laws enforced. What happens? Why do people change? Why do people think it's important for people under 21 to drink until they get away from college. And they do nothing to change the laws. Why? Perhaps it no longer matters. They don't care about college kids anymore. Perhaps they see there's problems. I don't have the answer to it. But if you want to get involved in changing something that's going to have an impact on you, contact your legislators. Go to people who are going to change laws. Make a case. If you want the people of St. Joe and surrounding communities to be on your side, become good neighbors. Go out and meet them. Bring them cookies. Sit down and talk with them. Ask them what their concerns are. Ask how you can help them. They will be looking to you as people they want to have if that happens. The last thing that I would say is that as we're talking about community, please understand the community that St. Ben's and St. John's is built on is not alcohol. If it were, that is a false community. Can alcohol help in a community? It can be a part of it, yes. But if the community is based upon alcohol, it is a false community and it should not survive. That's a drinking culture. A community that is built on higher values of respect, care for the common good, and respect for every person is the community that St. Ben's and St. John's are grounded. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father Doug, for one being here and being able to receive this criticism and comments with regards to St. Joe. So we are going to move on to the remaining part of our agenda as there are no more student comments. So feel free to leave, or if you want to hear a little bit about our capital improvements budget. We'll just do a 5-minute reset.
My name is Gerald Torres. I'm from San Pedro, California, and I'm coming here not as a student, not as a senator, but a minority on campus and in St. Joe. I already get stopped enough by St. Joe police for being Hispanic, for being in a group of Hispanic people. My minorities get stopped 2 times, 3 times more than other people in St. Joe. I already have a target on my back. I don't want a target in the front. Just because I'm here as a student doesn't mean I'm out there being a stupid underage drinker. I'm here as a responsible student from St. John's to be part of a community, not for just St. Joe, but for St. John's, for St. Ben's. And this is my concern for the police, to show us respect as a student, as a human being. I deserve that much at least. Thank you so much.